If you ask me, Ruben Amorim is doing a good job of implementing change at Manchester United in a positive way. However, we are starting to see a couple of problems occur in the way that we set up and the personnel on the pitch. Now, unfortunately, a lot of those problems we can't really do anything about. A lot of the time, our players just aren't good enough or are the wrong profile of footballer, and we don't have a transfer window right now, so we can't solve those problems. However, I do think there is one problem with the way that we're playing that we can actually solve not only with our current squad, but actually our current 11. And if you guys quickly subscribe to the channel, please, we're really trying to hit 45,000 subscribers, so just press subscribe. Once you've done that, I'll tell you about that problem. So the problem is in these situations here when Andre Onana has the ball in goal. Now that might sound a little bit odd to say because he's a very good ball playing goalkeeper. But we all saw that mistake the other night. It wasn't good, and it's not the first time we've seen it. There have been misplaced passes as Manchester United try and build the ball from the back. So what's the problem? Well, before we figure out the problem, we need to look at actually how we are trying to approach these situations, and it looks something like this. The two wider centre-backs regularly split either side of the goalkeeper, often Lisandro Martinez and Mazraoui. That leaves De Ligt in the middle, rather than playing as a centre-back, actually moving into midfield, and then someone like Ugarte will drop in a little bit deeper with him. Now what we are trying to do when we do this is move the ball to one side of the pitch to encourage the opposition to come over and try and press us in the hope that we are going to have room somewhere else, that we can overload a different part of the pitch. Particularly as we create a box in the midfield like this, we're trying to find the extra man where possible. Sometimes that will be Onana, sometimes that will be the centre-back on the far side. So the first question is this a good structure? Because we've seen errors with it. Is it even worth persisting with in the first place? Now, in my opinion, the answer to that question is actually yes, and we saw proof against Victoria Pleasant, even though that's the game I'm being critical of. Just bear with me. We can see Manchester United in this exact shape here. Onana in goal, the two centre-backs split a little bit wider, and the two midfielders in front, and we can see the kind of line it creates. Now, in this moment here, we see Manchester United using this really effectively, but it's actually De Ligt and Casemiro in this position. De Ligt in this position. It's not actually ideal, but structurally we do see the benefit here. You see, what we're trying to do is disrupt the opposition because they have these three players across the pitch here who are able currently to quite easily remove our passing options into the middle of the pitch, kind of the opposition are where they want to be. However, due to our build-up structure, we are able to move them about a little bit. We're able to manipulate the way that they play. And it starts with Onana playing the ball wide to Mazraoui. What happens here is De Ligt then starts to drop a little bit deeper, and Casemiro moves more into a midfield position, like so. And what we can see is that it's going to give this player here for the opposition a decision to make. Manchester United have too many players in this position. Because of a good structure, the opposition find it difficult to deal with. And eventually we sort of disrupt their shape. Those close three aren't so close anymore. And eventually Manchester United can move the ball forward. Mazraoui plays into Casemiro, we've got technical players in these positions, and we move the ball forward, and we get ourselves into a brilliant situation here. Xerxes does really well, carries the ball forward, and that is all from starting with the goalkeeper. So the structure itself is actually fine. So if the structure in theory is fine, why are we seeing so many mistakes in these deep positions which is costing chances against our goal? Well, we have to look at the profile of footballers. The structure might be alright, but the profiles within each position perhaps don't quite match up. And of course, the main one is a centre-back moving into midfield, particularly when you think about this is normally De Ligt or Harry Maguire. Neither of these two are players that want to move into these areas. Now, I'm not saying these two have done a bad job. I don't think they have at all. But you have to look at them as footballers and think about their player nature. The way that they want to play, their natural attributes, their strengths. For De Ligt, is it receiving the ball in midfield? Is it receiving with his back to goal and trying to protect the ball under pressure? Is it playing quick bounce passes to move out of a pressing situation? The answer to all of those questions is no, and we have seen problems with Manchester United using a centre-back in this position, simply because the player isn't natural there. We can see it in the game against Arsenal. Now this is proof that it isn't just a De Ligt issue because this is Harry Maguire. Basically the ball gets played to the left hand side like we saw earlier and Maguire is in the middle. However, he's not moving enough. He is not moving enough. And the reason he's not moving enough is because he's not used to playing in these positions. Again, he is a centre-back by trade, not a midfielder. But that makes it far too easy for Odegaard to press. He can cut off the pass to Harry Maguire and also apply pressure to Mazraoui. It's a bit too easy for Odegaard in this position. What Maguire really needs to be doing is trying to get into that position there to open up the passing lane for Mazraoui to slide that ball into midfield. Now you might say if he'd done that, well Odegaard would just squeeze over. That might be true, but that would then make it a lot easier for Mazraoui to go backwards and across to Onana. So again, we would still play out from the back. The issue is Harry Maguire doesn't want to do that movement. He doesn't want to go receive in there. And not only does he not want to, it's not natural for him to do it. throughout his career, he has not been a player that has regularly been asked to go into those positions. Because, again, he's a centre-back. It is not what he is used to doing. We have also seen the problem with De Ligt as well. Of course, this is a big error in this game from Onana. But I said yesterday, I don't think De Ligt covers himself in glory either. So the ball goes back to Onana and we can see De Ligt in a very similar position. And initially, I think the positioning is quite good. But what he doesn't do for me is react to the opposition. Now, first of all, Onana should be much quicker. He's way too slow on the ball here. This is error number one. Onana has to play quicker into De Ligt so De Ligt can play across the pitch to Mazraoui. We have time. So the question is, why doesn't Onana play it quickly? Why does he take so long on the ball? Well, the reason he takes longer on the ball is because he's trying to draw this forward in. In principle, he's trying to do the right thing. So that should we play that bounce pass, Mazraoui is going to receive the ball with more and more space the longer Onana takes. The problem is Onana takes too long and creates a bit of a problem for himself. But also De Ligt doesn't get himself into the right position. As the pressure comes on to Onana, De Ligt has to react. Initially, his positioning is good, but he never reacts. The picture changes, right? The way that the opposition press literally changes, but De Ligt doesn't. He doesn't react to the movement from the opposition, and he never drops into this position. And of course, the pass from Onana is the big error here. It is terrible, but De Ligt is also not in protect the ball mode. And the reason for that is because, again, he is a centre-back playing in central midfield. It's not ideal, but how do we fix it? So if the big issue is that we have got centre-backs receiving the ball in midfield positions, the solution is fairly easy. Get a midfielder receiving the ball in midfield situations. Is it difficult to do? Not really. Ruben Amorim has already showed that he can do it. We saw it in a game against Arsenal. There were situations where Maguire played a little bit deeper. And it's actually Bruno Fernandes and Ugarte now in these midfield positions. You know, midfielders in midfield positions. And the big thing here is that they are just more comfortable. I don't think they are the most press-resistant players in the world, but they are just naturally more used to dealing with these situations and reacting to the ball moving. Particularly, again, if we're talking about player nature. Bruno Fernandes, like most midfielders, he just wants the ball. He just wants the ball. Maguire and De Ligt shied away from it a little bit. Bruno wants the ball in any situation. In any situation. So as soon as the ball goes back towards Onana, Bruno is making that movement to receive the next pass. Now, of course, this isn't the same as the two situations we just looked at. The Arsenal pressure isn't quite as good. But the important thing is the player nature of Bruno Fernandes. Being a midfielder, he wants to go and get the ball. And also being a midfielder, he is used to trying to get himself into ball protection mode. So as Declan Rice comes to apply pressure, he gets his body between the ball and the opposition. You physically cannot get the ball here without fouling Bruno Fernandes. This is what De Ligt failed to do, get his body into position to protect the ball. And when a midfielder does it, it's much easier. We play out from the back in these situations, we move the ball forward, and actually end up with a really good attacking pattern. We've also got another situation like it here in this game. Again, it is Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes in midfield. And the reason we're able to do this is because we've actually pushed De Ligt at the top there to a right-back position, which perhaps isn't ideal. We'll come back onto that a little bit later on in the video. But regardless, we've got our two midfielders in midfield. That is the important thing here. So as the ball goes from Onana towards the left-hand side to Mazraoui, Bruno, being a midfielder, knows he has to drop into that space. Now this time Arsenal are a little bit better with their press, but it's alright because Bruno Fernandes is aware. Again, player nature, this is a midfielder. He is used to receiving with his back to goal in the middle of the park, so he knows that he needs to check his shoulder. He needs to have a look, who's coming behind to press me. Again, this is something that centre-backs don't typically do, but Bruno Fernandes does. And that means when he receives the ball, he can get himself into ball protection mode. Player between the opposition and the ball. Again, you cannot take this ball off him without fouling him. It's clever from Bruno Fernandes. And it happens, again, because he is a midfielder, he is natural. He is used to being in these positions. And he's actually so good that it draws the attention of Bukayo Saka, which means Tyrell Malacia can receive the ball with time. And again, Manchester United can play the ball out from the back with some good movement. And suddenly, we're in a good position where from here, we can move forward. So how do Manchester United do this on a more regular basis? Who are the solutions? Now, in terms of the solution, this is where the news is good for Manchester United fans. This isn't a case of signing new players, starting again and tearing up and making a new system. We don't need to do any of that. We just need to tinker what we're doing a little bit. That is all Ruben Amorim needs to do to get this to work. And it kind of revolves around two players who already play a lot of football, Kobbie Mainoo and Mazraoui. And we can stay in the exact same shape, but just move the profiles about just a little bit into stronger positions. and we should be more comfortable in the way that we play out. So currently this is how we are doing things, and we can see we've got a bit of a problem, right? Got a bit of a problem. What we need to do is try and get De Ligt out of this position and to play more as a centre back and try and get a midfielder in this role here. Okay, so how can we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is put Manchester United back into default formation, the 3-4-3 shape like so. How can we shift into that shape that we were just looking at? Well, I tell you what, it's actually really, really easy. You want Sandro Martinez, who is a centre-back, to play as a centre-back. So where will we put him? On the left-hand side. It makes sense. You want De Ligt, who is a centre-back, to play at centre-back. Where do you put him? You just shift him to the right, still in a centre-back position. But now, we need someone different to play on the right-hand side. To go into a right-back position. Who can that be? Well, how about our natural right-back, Mazraoui? How does that sound? It sounds pretty good to me. Mazraoui can shift to the right-hand side. Diogo Dalot can drop a little bit deeper on the left. Again, a fullback. He is natural at doing this. And then we can get Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte into the double pivot. So Manchester United are creating a very, very similar structure to the one that we were just looking at. Ruben Amorim doesn't have to change too much. But all of these players here, apart from Dalot realistically, but we're restricted on the left, all of these players are in comfortable positions where they are strong and want to play on a regular basis. I think if Ruben Amorim makes this change, does it fix Manchester United? Of course not, but it makes things a little bit simpler. It gets players receiving the ball where they want to receive the ball. Kobbie Mainoo in these areas is excellent. He is one of the few press-resistant players at Manchester United. And for De Ligt, everything is in front of him. No longer does he have to worry about receiving with back to play, someone pressing him from behind. He's got a little bit of time, he can get his head up and he can play forward passes into the midfield. For me, it just simplifies everything, and I think it's a change that Ruben Amorim can make fairly quickly, fairly easily, without making too many changes. It's just a slight tinkering, and I really think it solves some problems. But those are just my thoughts. I want to hear yours in the comments down below. What are the positives of doing this? What are the negatives of doing this? Is there a different way we could make a change? Or do we not need to tinker anything at all? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today's video. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.